Hello, this is Nikki in Niagara, coming to you from Niagara Falls, Canada. Today I'm filling a subscriber's request, and that is to show you how I refresh my alcohol markers. Now, spread out on the table here are all the markers that I have used up recently, and they are now in turn ready to be oh, there we go, used again. Because once you've used an alcohol marker, you can, what happens is that the inside, there's a little foam or sponge like element in I don't know what words to use inside of here, and that's what the ink soaks into. When your alcohol marker becomes dry, it doesn't mean that all the ink is gone, it just means that all the moisture, the alcohol, has dried up and been finished. But that little sponge in there, that's what I'm going to call it, even though that may be incorrect. I'm going to call it a little sponge. In there is still full of ink. It can certainly be reused one more time. If you do it more than one more time, your color will end up being very diluted, and it's really not worth the effort to do it more than once. So, I have got all these to do, but what I've done is I've taken out one of every kind that I have to do so that I can show you how they're done. They're all done the same, but I'll go through a few different brands here so you can see. So we'll get rid of these so we don't have to stare at them. I will be spending the part of the evening when I'm finished this video to do those ones. So I'll put what I have here. I have a Touch New alcohol marker. I have a BIC Intensity Ultra Fine. I have a BIC Intensity Fine. I have a Crayola Take Note. I have a Sharpie Ultra Fine. And then one thing I'm going to show you is how to use a dried up water-based marker and turn it into an alcohol marker for one go, like the others. So, and this, I don't know if they even make these anymore, but it's Distress Marker by Tim Holtz. We'll talk about that one at the end. So, this is not a tutorial. I am not going to get into really deep explanations or anything. I'm just going to show you what I do and talk about what I'm doing as I do it. I'm not going to try and reinvent the wheel and give you all the detailed information, because there is already a video out there which does a very good explanation of this whole process. So I am going to link you to that so you can go there afterwards and get the deep lowdown on this after you've seen what can happen, what you can do. So that is from Lisa at Lisa's Coloring Corner, and you can look down below to find her link. Now, I have a feeling that my camera isn't quite straight here, so just excuse me while I move it a bit. There we go. Okay, so what are you going to need besides your markers? You're going to need some alcohol. And this is rubbing alcohol that you buy at the drugstore, like this. You need to have over 90%. I have heard Americans saying they get 91%, but here in Canada I was only able to find it 99%. This is the medical grade. 90 and up is the medical grade. What you normally buy for your home is 70%, and that's not what you want. It's not strong enough to work on these pens. So my bottle was getting too low to stick a pipette in it. So my alcohol is in this dish now. So another thing you'll need is some pipettes, and they look like this. And you can buy a bunch of those in a bag from Amazon or AliExpress. You can also get glass ones, which you don't need to recycle them. These are kind of like you use several times and then it'll get a tear up here and it won't suck up anymore. So I do have a permanent one, but I just don't know where it is at the moment. So we'll be using these ones. And then you'll need a set of needle nose pliers or a set of jewelry making pliers. Those would actually work better than these ones, because you just have to be a little bit extra careful so you don't ruin anything when you're using normal needle nose pliers. You're going to need a roll of washi tape, and I'll tell you what you need that for in a minute. You need something plastic to cover your work surface because we're working with ink here, which stains. And you also need a soft surface. I've got a old towel here that I use for this purpose, and you can use a paper towel. And finally, we're going to need some paper to scribble on to see if our markers are filled enough. Try them out. I'm going to have to put that there. Okay, so we're going to start. First of all, we'll start with the alcohol marker. Now I've got a Touch New here. I've done it with Ohuhus, and basically all alcohol markers are either like made in the shape and style and numbering system as the Touch New or the Ohuhu. So what I'm showing you will more than likely be how yours are done. So what you need to do is take the end off both ends. And this, as you can see, is dried up. So what we're going to use is, and you know, I'm going to zoom you in here. I'll get in closer with my editing software if I need to. But you're going to take the chisel end like this, and you're going to take your needle nose pliers, and at the base of the nib you are going to pull. Now I'm pulling gently with this and more pulling the pen away from them, and I found that's the way to least harm anything. Okay, so there we go. We've pulled it out. And that's what your nib looks like. So next, we're going to get our pipette. We're going to get some rubbing alcohol at 90+%. Mine is 99. And we're going to put it in here. Now, how much do you put in? Well, you don't want it leaking out the bottom. So usually I keep my eye on the bottom, and I'll start to see the liquid forming on it, and that's when I stop. That's a little teensy weensy bit too much, and we fix that problem. If you can eyeball it better than me, then go ahead. So this is where I hold it over my towel, because I could possibly put too much in and have it streaming out that end. And you'll get the hang of it as you go along, like what you do the first few times. And what I've found is it's good to put it in, and then you can feel that spongy thing. Oh, sorry. Make sure I stay on screen zoomed in so close. You'll feel that spongy thing in there, and that's what you're pushing the alcohol into, because we're filling it up again. If you just put it in, like say here, and then you just start trying to fill up your chamber, it will go around the sponge as well, so you won't be able to get as much in here. Did I feel this? Yes. Okay. Alright, so now my other end, I'm not seeing anything on it. So usually I've found 3 works with a dry one. Sometimes I've only done 2. Sometimes I've had to do like 4. Okay, so that's 3 of them. I'm going to go over to my paper, and I'm just going to see what's happening with this end. Well, look at that. It's working perfectly fine. So, yes, and when I touch the paper towel, it just starts to bloom. So I've got enough in here. Didn't make any mess. One thing that you may want to do, if it's going to bother you, is that when you're finished, you will have ink on your hands, and that will take a couple of days of washing to get the stain off of your hands. If that's going to bother you, wear those like medical aid gloves that you can get at the department store. So what we're going to do is put this back, and again, you can hold it with your needle nose pliers, because you're going to get ink on your hand, which I'm already slightly starting to do, but I don't care. Now, one thing that it took me a little while to actually figure out was, when you're putting the nib back into this part, you need to have the nib laying flat the same way this does when it's laid flat. You don't want to turn it this way so that it's like this, and put this in the opposite direction, or else you'll have to hold your pen funny for it to work. So we're putting it in the flat way so that they match up, and I'm showing you there. You can see how this matches up with it. I didn't go this way and put that acrosswise. Well, you'll see what I mean when you try it. So that is done. Now what we need to do is, now what I'm doing some things differently than you'll see Lisa do it, but this has worked for me, so I do it this way. I put the lids back on, and then I'm going to place it over to the side on it laying flat, and I'm going to put it out of my way. You're going to want to keep it that way for 24 hours. That's only to make sure that it's going to work properly and all the alcohol has sinked in. Okay, so our next one is a BIC Intensity Ultra Fine. And with this one, if you look, you will see, and this happens with most of the ultra fines, we're not going to take the actual nib out. The nib is attached to a little bit of metal, or in this case a little bit of plastic, and we'll see that the Sharpie Ultra works the same, the Sharpie Ultra Fine works the same way. So I'm going to grab the little bit of plastic that the nib is attached to, because I can feel the joining right there. And when you're doing brands that you don't see me do and you don't see Lisa do, go ahead and give them a try. I mean, they've run out anyways, so you're just going to throw them in the garbage, so it doesn't matter if you wreck it trying to find out how to open it. I always have a hard time with these and these pliers. I need a decent set of pliers. So I'm holding this really tight, and I'm moving the pen around and pulling at the same time. Okay, it slipped a little bit, so I need to get a better grip. There you go. So then this is what comes out. You can see my nib on the right hand side and what was inside. So we'll put that down. Now we don't have a bottom, so we can't gauge by that side on these ones. So again, we're going to get our alcohol. We're going to go in and find that spongy thing in there. Okay, it's not very far away. It's right there. And we're going to push. Okay. Yeah, this one started to leak on me already. That happens sometimes. Basically, we're going to know it's done because it falls out, but this already has done that to me. And see, this is where the messy job comes in. So if that happens like it did to me, I mean, I haven't filled it up, so it definitely can't be full. Now, give it a good knock. Tap what we just put in down. It's hard to say what you do. Because I think with these ones we don't put it into the foamy thing. We put it to the side of it. I think that's what I found. So I'm going to try again. Lift some up. Put it in here. Okay, I found that thing and I'm trying to put it to the side of it. Pushing slowly. Slowly. Okay, slowly. It's bubbling at the top, but it's not coming out. Okay, and I like to tap these ones because you can get more alcohol in these than it at first will look like. Okay, so I've put in 2, and I think I'm going to need a half. So for these ones, try and put it to the side of that foamy thing. I know you can't see what I'm doing, but that's the best I can do. So, okay, there's half, and I'm starting to feel it run down the side on my finger, so I'm going to stop there. Just try and put some drops in. Okay, it's definitely full. Okay, so I'm going to tap it. Now when I put the top back in, it may overflow a little bit because I filled it right to the top here. Okay, so either with your pliers or your fingers, put this in and push. Whoops. Oh no, my nib came out. Okay, now that has never happened. Okay. So to be more careful, use your pliers to hold that guy and push it all the way back in. You have to do some twisting and turning on these. Make sure it's all the way. I still have a teeny little gap there. Okay, now, my nib okay? Okay. See, now I've got a little bit too much because you see when I dip like this, that's watery. That's not my nice thick ink. That's watery. So I'm going to put it on here and let it bleed out the water. Okay, there. It looks like we're done. Let's go to the paper. See if it works. It sure does. That's nice. Now, put the lid on, and what I do is make sure your barrel is dry. Now this has been filled, so it means I can't fill it again, because if I do, I'm just going to get a watery, slightly green, basically alcohol. So it's not worth filling them more than once. But I am going to get a complete second use of it. So what I do is I take a piece of washi tape. You can do anything you want. This is just what I do. And I wrap it around my pen somewhere where it's not going to cover up my name or number on my pen. So this one can go here. That way it's not, whoops. You know, it's when you do things on camera that the things that you normally do all the time start to go wonky and you make mistakes. Seen it happen to other people, and here it is happening to me. So there, that's got washi tape on it. And you know what we did, friends? We didn't put washi tape on this one. Forgot to explain at that point. Okay, so this doesn't have any names or numbers on it, on the barrel. So just going to wrap it around. Only need a small piece. Okay, so I'm putting that to the side and laying it flat, and I'm doing the same thing with this one. Okay, now we're going to do a BIC fine point. This is the regular one, and I don't have a regular Sharpie here, but it works the exact same way as this. Now we're not going to pull out the tip, but this whole top thing is attached to. I can put my thumb in the space there where it's going to come out, so we can see on the paper that it is dried out. So I'm going to grab onto this. No, wait a minute. Do we take the nib out? Oh yes, we do. We take the nib out. So this is a little nib, so be careful. And we're holding it with the pliers, and we're pulling the pen, pulling and twisting the pen. This one you have to be careful of, because you can wreck the nib. Okay, so there we go. I've got the nib out, and I've got a whole opening here. So now I'm going to do the same thing I did for the ultrafine. And I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to go try and get down the side of that foamy thing. There, one just went in. It's dry as a rock in there. Okay, so put it to the side. It's only the actual alcohol markers that you want to put it into the foamy thing and fill it up. Got more room in those barrels to walk. Okay, the second one went in straight. Nothing happened on the outside, so I know it's taking it. Okay, so we'll just be careful. Okay, now stripping down the side. Is that the marker, or is it just me? Okay, yeah, it's starting to overflow now. Got the rest of it in there. So, yeah, like I said, 3 is the most, really. So, we put the nib back in. And you can pretty much do this by hand, but you got to really push it at the end to get it all the way in. Okay, so now let's take a look. And here we go, look. Look at that. Next to this. Okay, so there is no, when I put it down and it bleeds out, it's pure ink. There's no excess alcohol. Now this is a little wet, so I'm just going to dry it up. I'll put the lid on. Sorry. Put the lid on, and then I put the masking tape on to let me know that this is a refreshed marker. Okay, where's the name? Okay, don't want to cover that up. Whoops. This is good use for washi tape if you're one of those people who has a billion rolls of this stuff. This is the way to use it. And so there we go. Put the lid on, and I'm going to lay it down flat like this over to the other side. Okay, so now let's do the Crayola Take Note permanent marker, and this is the fine point. This is like the BIC that we just did. And again, we're going to take out just the nib. Now, how dry is this one? Yeah, they're all pretty much the same dryness, see? We're not getting anything out of that. So, we're going to take the nib off. Right down at the very end, because you don't want to wreck that nib. Okay, so you're holding tight with this, and you're twisting and pulling with the other hand. Okay, I can feel it starting to give, so I'm going to take my needle nose off, and I'm going to move them down a little bit to what I've pulled out. I have less to worry about. Okay, here it comes. There it comes. There we go. That's a long one, huh? Alright, so put it down there. And this is one-ended again. I'm going to go in here. This one's got a nice soft foam thing in it, so let's see if I can just fill that up by pushing into it. Yep. So I'm actually going on to the foam part with this one again. It's down there far enough. So that's two. And this may be my third one. I wish I could show you without my hands being in the way, but that is the nature of the beast. Down there, fill up this thing. Okay, I'm going to put another half of one in there because hasn't even touched the top. So, alright, so a fourth one fit in there. Now it's all going to depend on how dry your markers are too and how many you can get in there. So I'm picking this up. I'm going to put it back in there. You can do this by hand until you get to, like, I can take this and I'm going to push it right in, and actually I did push it. Oh, there we go. One last hard push. Now, let's turn it around, see what we got. Okay, this is a lot too much in it. It bled over to the side. This is the one we're talking about. See how you got the clear, watery substance? So let's put it down on here and let that excess alcohol come out. Okay, there we go. Now let's color with it. There we go. put the lid on, and I'm going to lay it flat. Whoops, forgot my washi tape. Okay, the names of this one are down on the bottom of them, so I don't have to worry. Okay, so I got the washi on. So when this runs out, it's a tosser. Okay, so now let's do the Sharpie Ultra Fine, and this one will be done the same way as we did the BIC Ultra Fine. We're not going to take out the nib. We're going to take out the steel or plastic that it's attached to. Now this one, this is an old one that I have. It still has the metal thing on the lid. They're plastic now. So we're going to take a hold of the bottom of the, whoops. Oh, I wonder if I take out this whole plastic. Oh, I do. Okay. So yeah, it's the whole plastic thing that comes off. Okay, I'll just put it down so you can see it. Well, let's not put it in the ink. There it is. See, the whole top came off. And that's what the top of the Sharpie looks like now. Looks a little weird with that end missing. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. Okay, there's my foam. Let's see what happens if I push right into it. Okay, that worked. And this is going to take you some trial and error to be getting it right. The first few times I did it, it was an inky mess, but I did get all my pens to refill. I just kept persevering. Each one you do gives you another feel for that how much, because that's the step that's not constant in these. Now it is filling up. If I try to put any in, it's going to overflow. Just trying drops now. So I'm going to finish up this. So that was 3. And I have a feeling we'll probably get some clear alcohol coming out of this one. So we put this thing back in. And that was pretty easy. Just going to push a little with this thing, make sure we got it in. Yeah, that was it. Alright, so let's see if this one will write. And there we go. Are we on screen yet? Okay. So right here, there's my fine liner working again. Okay, I have one left, and it is a water-based marker. I'm going to put the washi tape on this one. Now, this doesn't have a name on it, but you can see I've labeled it with a number, so stay away from that. I sure wish Sharpies had their names on them, because every color does have a name. You can find them on the website and on the boxes when you buy them. Sometimes they have a name on them, but alas, they don't have them on the barrel. So there it is. I'm going to lay it down flat. Now, this will not work with all water-based markers. It's only going to work with some. I have tried. This is only something I found out recently. So I've tried a few brands that didn't work. As I was trying to take the nib out, the nibs got wrecked and they wouldn't come out. But I was just going to throw it away anyways because it was dried out. So it's worth trying. So what I did find that worked was this double end brush marker. This is a Tim Holtz Distress marker. but it's made pretty much the same as any other double end marker. So I'm going to say check your double end markers because there's a good chance they will work. But still try the other ones. And you know what? If you get a water-based marker that's not double-ended that works with this, leave me a comment down below and let me know what it worked with so that I can start knowing which brands work and which ones don't. Okay, so what you need to do when you have a water-based marker that's not working anymore, that's dried up, is you need to take the lid, or in this case lids, off. And you need to set it aside and let it sit with your markers that you're collecting until you have enough to do this. And let it sit there with no lids on. Because what we want it to do is we want that thing in there to dry out, because it had water in there, and even though it's dried out, there will still be some moisture in there. So what we need to do is take the lids off and let that thing completely dry out. My reasoning behind that is that I'm assuming that the water that is in there, if I try to put my alcohol into there with the water still, even if it's just a teeny weeny little bit, the water is going to mix with the alcohol and well, water it down, and it's not going to work. So this has been sitting here for a good 2 weeks, so it's good and ready to go. Now again, we're taking off the big end. So this was our chisel tip. Well, I could probably take this off by hand. I can feel it wiggling. But we're pulling on here, and we're taking out the whole top part right here. I find this quite interesting that there's a little point on that end. Makes me wonder if these are supposed to be interchangeable, but I'm not going to mess around with that. Okay, so we've got this out. And that end we don't have to take anything out, but now that we've got double ends again, we can just keep filling this until we see it start to drip from this end. Of course, if you put too much in, then a whole bunch will come out, and that's where we make our mess. But anyways, before I do that, let's just take a look on the paper here. And this is completely dried out, not getting anything. So the sponge is right at the top there, and I can feel it. This water-based markers have bigger, softer sponges inside, which are about the length of the barrel, so it ends really close to the end up here. So we're going to fill that barrel, we're going to fill that sponge up with alcohol. Whoops, now look, it's starting to drip out this end. You see? Can you see that it's dripping? Okay, it stopped, but if I touch it to the paper... Okay, so I'm going to see if I can put some more in. Okay, yeah, same thing happened. So let's let that water drip out, that alcohol drip out. Hold it down, let it Alright, we're getting some ink. That end is very, very fine. So we're going to put the top back in. There, I heard it click. Okay, so now let's turn it over this way and see if we can write with it. It's going to take some time for the ink to run into the nib. Oh, I can see it. All right, let's try. Oh, not yet. Okay, this nib is dried out, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a drop of alcohol and we're going to put a drop on there. And the nib sucked it up. Let's put another one in there. Okay, it sucked it up. It also made our nib dry. So, it'll work because we made the nib, but let's just see if it'll keep working. So there you go. I'm getting alcohol ink out of this marker, which beforehand was a water-based marker. You know, not sure if it's getting better or worse. You know what? I'm going to go and put one more thing of alcohol in there. Can I just, no. So I'm taking that off and I'm going to put one more in. Just to be on the safe side. Don't want to have it last me only a couple of times. Okay. That's much nicer. I'm living on the edge, folks. I'm going to put another one in. I just got a half a thingy here. Oh, okay, it's running again. Okay. Oops, running too much. Oh, there we go. That's a nice color from that end. Okay, let's put this in. There we go. So, there we go. I've got, where did I do it? Right here. I have got, whoa, that's showing up on my screen like neon blue. Is that what you're seeing? Because it's called crushed grapes, I believe. Oh no, shaded lilac. It's just a really normal shade of like lavender. Okay, so now I can get my lids back and put them on. I put the lids back on so that they don't leak out. The worst that can happen is that it might leak into your lid a little bit, so the first time you use these, take the lids off gently so that you don't get a splatter of some alcohol or some ink. But I haven't had that happen to me yet, but it's always a possibility. So if you don't mind and you want to set these all aside with the lids off, you can. Just don't leave them 24 hours because you don't want them to dry out again. But I like to leave them, so I'll leave these here until tomorrow night and then I'll go file them all away. So this is my my biggest discovery, which I've been trying to discover for a while, is how to turn a used up water-based marker into an alcohol marker. So now this will only work for until it's empty. Then I'm not going to have any usable ink left in there at all. So there you go. So we're finished. Now I ask you to go over and visit Lisa. Will have the link down below to her video about this process, and you can watch her video where I think she goes into well, she definitely goes into a bit more detail. She's actually she's actually filmed a tutorial. She does tutorials. I don't. So now you know how I do it. And if anybody has any requests for me, such as this type of video, or if you want me to demonstrate a supply that you've seen in one of my hauls, or if you want me to do a flip through of a book I haven't already that you've seen come in through a haul, or you've seen me that's come up in my finished pages, or if you would like me to color in a specific book for a coloring chat, or even a specific book with a specific supply, I will do that if I can. And yeah, so let the requests come in if you've got one. So in the meantime, until next time, bye-bye.